a very first webinar in our first series, supporting the cohesive and collaborative ecosystem of innovators that's enabling a transformation in UK manufacturing through the use of technology. I'm Nicole Ballantyne, and I work in the manufacturing team at the KTN. Who are the KTN, I hear you say? So the KTN are here to connect for positive change. That's business to business, academia, investor, with our wealth of knowledge and expertise that cross all sectors. We're experts in network innovation and have been the Innovate UK trusted partner for many years. I'm so excited to get to introduce you to the speakers. However, I'd like to set the scene about why we're doing this series. So in 2016-17, Jürgen Meyer led a team of UK industrialists to create a vision for the acceleration of the use of digital technologies in manufacturing to improve productivity. From that review, there was 4 main areas of recommendation: adoption, innovation, leadership and skills. The adoption activity saw a UK investment in the Northwest pilot, which was a 3-year funded programme, and now, just been announced in 2021, we'll see a rollout of this adoption programme into 3 other regions, and that's the North East, Yorkshire and Humber and the West Midlands. Hopefully the rest of the UK will also be rolled out later. The adoption programme is a grant subsidy programme and focused on productivity improvement through technology adoption. The leadership and skills activity has been led by Ingenuity and can be seen on their Engage platform. And finally, the innovation strand of the programme is led by the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund at Innovate UK. The programme is known as the Manufacturing Made Smarter Challenge. This ambitious innovation programme will, over the next 3 years, invest over 300 million in supporting manufacturers, digital technology developers, founders and academics to innovate solutions to support the increase in productivity in the manufacturing sector in the UK and to export technology solutions to the global manufacturing community. A number of the interventions are already underway. For example, CR&D1, CR&D is collaborative research and development, was a fast start programme, and some of those projects are starting to end now. CR&D2 was digital supply chain. The Made Smarter Digital Accelerator you may have heard about is currently running, and the Innovation Hubs pilot is also currently running, and we're looking to contract out that programme for the next 3 years. Further information on all of these interventions can appear, and it is starting to appear, on the madesmarter.uk website, which is the central portal for Industry 4 knowledge in the UK. The network activity, such as this webinar series, aims to promote the communication of the latest projects, technologies, developments, and to develop a community of collaborators innovating to support productivity improvements in the UK manufacturing, way past the remit of Made Smarter funded initiatives. In the webinar series, we wanted to give insights into the art of the possible, starting from the viewpoint of the manufacturer. We know that there's very few plug and play solutions in our incredibly diverse manufacturing sector in the UK. And there will always be some integration, some innovation needed. And it's therefore, there will be some pain to be experienced before the results start to flow. And it's these stories that we're wanting to air in this series. There's so much awesome work going on in the UK, and the Made Smarter Innovation Network and madesmarter.uk portal will be our way of sharing the stories and spreading the knowledge and the success of this vibrant community. We'll keep you updated on the progress following this webinar, and we'll send you info on how you can be kept in the loop. So where are we now? Well, using KTN's extensive technology and sector knowledge, we've set up a programme that will support the Manufacturing Made Smarter Industrial Strategy Challenge. We have activity plans in all sectors and technology areas who are engaging with all known networks. We're not wanting to create a new network, we're creating, hopefully, a cohesive network. We're also continually scouting for new technologies that can support the manufacturing sector. And we're keen to hear and share any stories of change. Please get in contact. So, So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to our speakers. First up will be Conor Wall of IPL GLOBAL, a leading plastic packaging provider. Conor is the global head of sustainability who, in his quest to develop a plan for his company to achieve net zero and prioritise his budget for projects, looked at off-the-shelf systems, and when he found nothing that ticked every box that he wanted to tick, he decided to innovate his own system. Next, the company that helped Conor innovate in his system is Ameresco. Now, I've known Karthik for many years, working with him on short-term operating reserve rapid response program before in 2010, when his company, then the Energy Services Partnership, which was an SME in Castleford, a startup, which then got bought out by Ameresco in 2013. Our third slot for the UK tech founders is from Matthew Roberts at Binary Forge. KTN became aware of Binary Forge through their participation in Innovation Alley at the Digital Manufacturing Week last year. And last but not least, and she's got some money for us, is our very own Jenni MacDonnell. And she will tell us about the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund and how there's an open fund, there's a fund that's open right now to support your prioritized energy reduction initiatives. So over to you, Conor.
So as you can see here, we have a footprint across North America and Europe. We've 3 plants in the UK, but we've just acquired another 2 plants in the last 3 months. So we're in a significant growth phase at the moment. We were a public company and we were taken private this year, late last year. At the moment, we've 19 manufacturing facilities, 11 in North America and 6 in UK, Ireland, and 1 in China and in Belgium. And so what we make, I suppose, and to the left there, if you look outside at your own wheelie bins, if you're all based in the UK and in Ireland, you'll see that we've pretty much made all the wheelie bins that are out there today. And these are products that last for more than 10 years. So when you think about a plastics company, we do make products that contribute to the circular economy. So that's an important part of our story. So as you can see here, 13% of our revenues are from recycling containers and waste carts and wheelie bins. We also make returnable crates and totes and bins for many different applications, from automotive all the way to agriculture. We make and have been very busy making paint pails, and we're increasing the amount of recycled content because of the UK plastics tax coming in 2022. As you can see there, when you were all busy last year, unfortunately during lockdown, the paint sales went through the roof, and as such our manufacturing of paint containers went through the roof as well, as we increased recycled content, 39% of group revenue. And we also make your yogurt pots and your ice cream containers, which are designed to be recycled. So we don't have any single-use packaging in the organization. It's all designed to be captured and brought back into the circular economy, which again, it's an important part of our narrative. So at a glance, what we do is we have $614 million in revenue right now, and that's going to grow with the new acquisitions to short of $1 billion. We bring in 23,000 tons of recycled content into the organization. So we're the biggest user of recycled plastics in the UK right now, and over 50% of the plastic that we use is recycled. And as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, that contributes to a reduction of 55,000 tons of carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. So, we are building a journey to capturing and bringing, the flow of carbon into the rather not into the atmosphere, but back into the organization. Super important that the UK is so far ahead when it comes to recycled content. In North America, for example, we're at 2-3%, and our businesses in the UK are greater than 50%. So really important to highlight how far ahead the UK is relative to North America, where they're only at the infant stage. We're 5 years ahead in the UK right now. We have 10 focus areas on our sustainability journey, and this is part of our sustainability strategy. But the two action areas there around climate change and energy. And when we started into discussions with Karthik and Ameresco back about 2 years ago, it was an energy efficiency conversation, and that, look, where were we going to focus our capital and our energy? Where were the big problems? Which were the main plants that we had opportunities? The narrative has kind of changed, because it's kind of gone from energy efficiency into, well, there's a far more complicated problem here, and that's our journey to net zero. So very quickly, I kind of flipped it on its head and said, well, look, you know, I think as a group, we're better off understanding what that journey looks like, and how do we manage flow of carbon coming in and out of the organization. And once we understand that, and we have real data and I suppose data to assurance level, that we can start to make decisions at a group level, would we then start looking at the energy efficiency issue? But I thought first and foremost understand carbon. As you can see here, this is just a little bit on our journey. We're about to set targets, including climate change targets and net zero targets in the coming months. But that's based on 2 years of building up baseline information. And we say, well, look, how do you go about doing that for 20 plants? I certainly looked at off-the-shelf, as Nicole mentioned. I looked at off-the-shelf solutions. And in fact, we had one. But very quickly, I realized that it just wasn't smart enough and flexible enough to capture everything that I wanted to understand and achieve for the future of the organization, because we are going to grow quite considerably. So I had to build that into the mix. So what we've built is a sustainability reporting tool. It's simply, and Karthik will give you a little bit more on this, but it's simply based on Power BI. So it's not an off the shelf, because we already had it, and it's rolled out throughout it's a simple Microsoft package. So we just started playing around with it, and very quickly we realized that it was the tool for us, and we've just been building ever since. As you can see here, it just rolls everything from an overview and consumption data for our scope 1, 2, and recently our scope 3 emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, all the way over to a tool that's built for audit. And we've had 2 years of successful audit from our partners EY. What this allows us to do is understand our and begin to develop and build a net zero carbon strategy. But what it can do is just give us all the data we need. Going back here, as you can see, it goes from 2020, 2019, 2018, and we can do comparative analysis on all our scope 1, 2, and 3, and begin to know what's happening in the business and what levers are available to us in order to understand where the opportunities are as we build and begin to understand our journey to net zero. Now, what will come out of that is energy efficiency projects, but I need to understand the flow of carbon before we start to invest significant capital in that regard. And that was what I tried to set out and do with Karthik. And I said, it's a journey, guys, so happy to take questions at the end of the session. But over to the next presenter.
Thank you, Conor. I'll just get mine going. Hopefully it's come through. So, following on from Conor then, in terms of Ameresco itself, we are an energy services company, going for about 20 years. So, you know, we're a fairly big kind of player in this field right now, 6 billion energy projects. We're in a global organization. Our own kind of group is based in Yorkshire, as Nicole said. We're listed on the NYSE, and we have our own portfolio of generation assets. We're quite pleased actually that Navigant Research, Guidehouse Insights, named us this year as number 1 in the space. So we actually managed to, there's an emerging energy as service space right now where organizations looking for partners to help them do these transformations, quite complex transformations effectively. And we're recognized as a leader in this space. And there's a term coming out there. We're in this clean tech space. So what does a clean tech integrator do effectively? And you got someone like Conor with a sustainability hat on. And I think what the first thing that we sort of recognize as we spoke to Conor and others like him is there's a whole range of things that he has to worry about. From commodity purchasing to procurement to energy efficiency, there's just a massive list of things that need to be sorted out. And there's no kind of technology answer that just sorts it for you. You can't come along and say, here's a package, that'll solve all these problems. Because not only does he have to deal with all these things, he has to think about, well, how's the finance going to come in to work with these elements, and what's the growth position going to be? And I think we see our role as a clean tech integrator as providing support in this situation to help people like Conor deal with his customers, who are the decision makers, stakeholders, the board members within organizations, and to communicate effectively to them. So what we do is provide market intelligence. There's a certain amount of knowledge we have around the energy system and the toolkits out there that are effective, and we provide that kind of knowledge information. So right now, for example, Conor, we're researching trends in decarbonisation across the world to help his global portfolio figure out what that might look like. We can recommend a solution mix and say, well, here's a combination of things you can do that are within your facility, things that are outside your facility. And we can put together a package of activities that we think make sense. And in our kind of energy as a service role, what's quite important is we will guarantee results, because quite often if we see an opportunity within the energy space that is an investable opportunity, we'll raise the finance and create that project. And our returns are based on the results that come through. So we have to guarantee those results. So it's quite important for us, anything we recommend into an organization actually works and does the right thing. Now, what we're asking organizations to do is make decisions. Again, someone like Conor has to look at this entire situation and make choices and recommendations on what needs to be done. And to do that, you need good quality information. And this is the starting point a few years ago with all these conversations. How do you get good quality information that helps you make these decisions? So a couple of years ago, we started these conversations across the industry and found that there was a new task emerging for organizations, and what's called a carbon monitoring and reporting task. And it looks a bit like this. You start off with emission sources, and typically people are comfortable with electricity and gas. That's two things. Most people know about them. That's all fine. But when you look at things like propane and diesel and in Conor's case, resins and so on, the number of sources kind of go up by a factor of 6 or 10. And you have more data points. They're around the world. So you have plants and equipment all over the place. And all the data sources associated with emissions come in different formats. You'll have PDFs, you'll have portals, you'll have scanned documents and so on. And this stuff goes into busy stakeholders who on the whole will look at the information, but haven't been asked to do too much with it so far. You might pull out the cost elements, the dollars and pounds, and that goes to the main system, but not necessarily the liters and the kilowatt hours and that sort of information that you need for consumption and carbon reporting. And these stakeholders are now being asked to collect information, process it in some way, hopefully check that it's correct, and then on the basis of that correct data, analyze and present insights. Now, this is the bit where, once you have these insights, you say, okay, this is where our numbers are. You can do something with it. You can tell stakeholders about it, or you can use it for decision making. But in order to do something, most people want to say, well, okay, is that actually, has that been checked by somebody? Is it auditable? Is it reliable data? Because it's on the basis of reliable data that you can either set targets or set new targets and refine and go through this process. And what you find is that this is actually new. This is work that somebody has to do. So you need a team to do it, and you need a systems process to go ahead and do the activity. Now, if you go to the market and you ask, for tools to do this, what you will get usually is some very good piece of software that help you do this part, analyze, present insights. If you put good quality data in, you will get some very pretty pictures that do whatever you need to do. The problem is, what about all these things up here? Who's actually going to check the information and get it through? This is kind of the hard, dirty plumbing work of getting information from multiple sources, managing it, bringing it in, checking it, and it is massive. So just to give you an example in the portfolio, 99% of this information has to do with a very big source. All is completely auditable. But we're finding about 20% of data needs to be patched and filled, and it might not have an impact on the overall number, but it's still information that's missing, and that's patchy. It needs to be looked at and checked to make sure that it is material, and you need to kind of work through it. So anyway, this is the kind of problem we had, and we were looking at this as an issue with Conor. And our suggestion was, okay, why not create a system that has individuals who are trained to go and look at this information and give you auditable data, and then we use a toolkit to create the reporting structure. This is kind of something that we can look at. And the reason we recommended the particular approach was, again, in the preceding years, we were trying to work out what makes a technology that would help us do this. Now, we've looked at tools for the last 15, 20 years now. I've been working on toolkits on various aspects of energy. And so, for example, back in 2006, we used a tool called Systems Link. that is an energy data collection piece that we use internally. There's a tool called UrgeNet that takes PDFs and converts them into digitized form. And we've looked at AI and variations and data. There's a whole bunch of stuff we've looked at, including things like Quandle that are data platforms. And all of this kind of came down to, there's lots of really good stuff out there, but how do we create something useful for an organization that actually, most importantly, reduce the technical friction for a large corporate? If you think about a large corporate organization, they make decisions around technology. You'll think about things like procurement. If you need to buy a new piece of software, it adds time to build stuff in. Cybersecurity is hugely important. So, as Nicole mentioned earlier, we were doing stuff where we were connecting in our systems to the national grid. And if you connect a piece of software to your system, which is then connected to the national grid, you really don't want a hole in here that compromises the entire system. And there's things like GDPR around data management, and will the organization you choose be around in 20 years? Because this is a kind of forever project almost. You will need to keep doing this thing. And finally, in Conor's position, he's trying to convince other people to do something. So what do they need? We need simple, clear, actionable information. And we figured we could build that using the toolkit we had. If you use Office 365 effectively, along with, since 2012, Office has changed its kind of platform quite a lot. And you have a really good combination of tools that allow you to deploy quite complex solutions very quickly. But there is still the tools, so R, for example, is a quantitative language, Python is a programming language. You can do stuff with these that allow you to add functionality later on, but you can get started with the existing toolkits that the Office platform has right now. So in terms of just what it looks like, these are kind of reports we create. This is really about kind of where the emissions are. This is kind of how much they are. And this is the kind of emissions data as we work through. We have performance and metrics, and then finally, is the data actually there? So things like these are the sort of reports we've created over time, and all these are built using the Microsoft Toolkit. But really, what's important is they're built using an understanding of what someone like Conor needs from their tool, and so we built them to help the organization communicate more effectively, rather than saying, "Here's some cool stuff. Do you want it?" Now, I think the best kind of measure of whether this worked or not really has been through the auditing process. There's been audited externally, and auditors typically use quite measured language. And so they say things like, "It's an effective tool to collect information. It was well utilized. It was efficient." This is not so measured. It's best in class. We like that one. But there's no errors, high level of accuracy. And then, this thing about use of SharePoint, reduced communication typically needed. All this stuff is kind of really, I think, measured statements that say this actually works. And this means it has actually helped us do this task more effectively. And we've also heard things like, "It's unbelievable how quick this is," because they ask for something and we turn around pretty much the next day, or in some cases you can do instantly. As they're talking, you can build reports as you go along. So yeah, again, happy to talk about this stuff, but really the main takeaway, I think, is this: when you can work closely with somebody like Conor, who's a user and who needs this technology, then rather than trying to, I think, pitch or sell or make something and push in the market, what you're doing is co-creating something. And there's a really good case study of, I think, co-creation of capability that meets a specific organization's needs, using technologies that are available for you. And I think we have a structure here where we can bring in more technologies, more complex technologies, but at the point where they are effective and actually add some commercial value. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to the next speaker.
Brilliant, thank you, Karthik and Conor. It's really good to hear, a real life example of a real business, global business, with this challenge. And I think what surprised me about your story is that it's not necessarily a technical innovation, but it's around bringing people, hearts and minds into the process and using the most frictionless system to get a reporting mechanism that works. And I think you tell that story really well, and I'm sure you'll have lots of questions afterwards. And in the 10 minutes, we don't have time to go into the detail of the technologies for collecting that data, but you've painted a great picture, thanks. So over to Binary Forge for your presentation, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just going to play you a quick video of a presentation by Matt Roberts, our CTO. So enjoy.
My name is Matt Roberts, and I'm CTO and co-founder at Binary Forge. I'm here to talk with you today about Lightforge, our smart lighting solution. In this session, I'll cover how this can deliver significant energy savings for your business, how the system can help with resource management when it comes to things like emergency lighting test schedules, and how the system can adapt and change with your building's needs into the future. To kick off with, and for those who haven't heard of us before, I think it's best to give a little background on Binary Forge and why I've been invited to present to you today. We're a Yorkshire-based software development agency that delivers innovative software solutions, seamlessly connecting business processes, systems, and services. My co-founder Glenn and I have built the business on two core pillars. We provide bespoke software development services, and we sell our own finished solutions. Our services include consultancy, integration, software security, and bespoke software development to solve business process issues. Moving across to our products, we have extensive experience building large-scale enterprise Internet of Things solutions and have turned a number of these into products. Products like Lightforge that delivers a globally accessible portal for managing, maintaining your lighting estate from anywhere in the world, or Safer Apart that we initially developed in response to the pandemic to help maintain social distancing measures in enclosed communal areas. It's clear this has a much wider reach as it can be implemented to feed rich data about occupancy and resource utilisation to facilities and building management teams. We're still a relatively young company and have only been trading since April 2019. In fact, we had our second anniversary just earlier in April. Don't let that fool you though. As a business, we have decades of experience with software development, delivery and support. So let's talk about energy efficiencies. Lighting represents one of the largest categories of energy use for any organisation. In fact, lighting can account for over 20% of the total energy bill for some commercial buildings. But in manufacturing, this tends to be closer to 5%, as most consumption is focused on the actual manufacturing processes. Regardless, this is still a sizable amount of energy, and anything that can be done to reduce it has to be a focus for any conscientious business. This is where Lightforge can help. Lightforge is an advanced, web-based smart wireless control system for your lighting estate. It allows you to manage and maintain your lighting estate from anywhere in the world, and in particular can bring data and control together in one user interface for lighting installations across multiple locations. This is particularly beneficial for organisations with many sites where they want to get a view of their company-wide lighting performance, all in one place. When looking at the energy savings associated with Lightforge, we typically see around a 20% reduction over pre-controls consumption. These savings come as a result of greater automation of lighting operations. This could be through the use of occupancy sensing, daylight harvesting, where the lights dim automatically when ambient light is stronger to maintain a set lighting level on the ground, and scheduling to ensure lights are off when spaces are not in use. In addition, greater control of the power levels lights operate at can deliver further savings as users recognise the human eye can barely perceive changes in dimming at higher power levels. In reality, as humans, we don't really recognise that lights are dimming until you get to around 50% power, which means even more savings can be delivered through more aggressive trimming as the installation matures and patterns of behaviour are understood more clearly. This is borne out by our real-world installations, where we've seen one customer in distribution and fulfilment go from an average daily consumption of 2,670 kilowatt hours per pre-controls to 2,157 with Lightforge installed. Another common practice we see is refreshing a lighting installation with LED at the same time as installing controls. We've seen this deliver up to 80% savings in retail, office and manufacturing installations, with one of our retail customers seeing their daily average energy consumption dropping from 357 kilowatt hours to 79. The return on investment for this route in extreme cases can be less than a year, but more typically is 1 to 3 years depending on the market sector. 3 years may seem like a lackluster return, but when you recognise that the average lifetime for an LED luminaire is 10 years, this becomes much more compelling, especially when you factor in the ongoing energy savings into the future. There's also grant funding available through schemes like the IETF that will significantly improve your return too. Further to the energy efficiencies that can be realised by Lightforge, there are additional benefits to be gained by installing our emergency lighting controls too. This allows you to orchestrate and schedule regular monthly and annual emergency lighting tests across multiple buildings from the comfort of your desk. Test results can be delivered via an emailed report or through the interface, so you can be confident about the status of your lighting compliance at any given time. This makes for a complete change in the way emergency lighting compliance is managed within an organisation. You don't need to send any colleagues to site to conduct the tests. You can select which individual emergency lights are conducting their tests at any given time, meaning you can manage the impact of battery drain across lights in the same area. And you only have to send colleagues to site to fix issues when they're reported. Lightforge allows you to adapt your lighting control and strategy as your factory changes. Moving or adding production lines doesn't mean you have to bring in an engineer to change your lighting strategy. You can update your lighting behavior from within the user interface in seconds. If you do need to relocate lights, the system is wireless, so you don't need to worry about getting control wiring to the new location. As long as there's power, you have control. As these last 2 points prove, energy efficiencies aren't always recognised through direct reductions in energy consumption. They can be realised third-hand through other efficiencies in processes and business activities. To this end, I'd like to take my final few minutes to talk about our development services, in particular, digital transformation. So what is digital transformation? You may well have heard the term already, and there are 100 different definitions out there. For us, digital transformation is about saving you time and money by helping you deliver more with less through the selective application of technology. In short, we design, build, and implement the best technology to support and drive your business forward. To illustrate, let me take a basic example from a recent project we've delivered for a customer. Unfortunately, I can't name the client in this instance, but in reality, the key point here is how the seemingly simple process improvement of replacing a paper-based form with some off-the-shelf technology and a little bespoke development can completely transform the success of an entire product. The client in question, let's be imaginative and call them paper forms are us, had a process where field operatives were required to note down unique unit identifiers and accurate location information on a paper-based form when installing new devices in the field. Commissioning for the new units would be completed when data entry staff in the office took the paper forms and updated the control system with the details of the new units. As you would imagine, there were several problems with this process. However, the two main problems were, 1, sometimes it could be as much as a week before the paper forms were presented to the office, leaving the new units out of operation. And 2, anomalies would creep into the data as a result of the multiple manual steps in the process. We solved this problem by delivering the following innovations. First, we digitized the paper-based form by developing a mobile application modeled on the data required in the control system. We then improved data accuracy by eliminating the vagaries of operatives' handwriting on top of leveraging native mobile technologies like barcode scanning and GPS location. Finally, we reduced the unit commissioning time by developing a dedicated API to upload new unit information to the control system once validated by the mobile application. Our client can now expect new units to be accurately commissioned and operational on their system in minutes as opposed to weeks. And as a bonus, their office staff are now free to work on more dedicated support tasks, saving them time and energy in the process.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and look forward to some questions afterwards.
Great, thanks Chris and Matt. And now Jenny, if you would like to take control of the screen, brilliant. And tell us about the open competition. Thanks.
Unmute. Hi everyone, my name is Jenni MacDonnell from KTN. I work in the Clean Energy and Infrastructure team and lead on thermal energy systems. So anything to do with heating and cooling from homes all the way up to heavy industry and manufacturing. And I'm working with BEIS and Innovate UK to run the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund, which I'm going to tell you about today. So the IETF is a £289 million fund to help businesses with high energy to cut their energy bills and reduce their carbon emissions. And this is providing funding for capital investment for industrial energy efficiency and deeper decarbonisation relating to the industrial process itself, the manufacturing process. So this is helping BEIS to meet their objectives of helping you to reduce your energy costs and emissions, but also de-risking some of the decarbonisation technologies that are out there. The first round of the fund opened last summer and closed at the end of October. And we had a great response from the manufacturing industries to the fund. Of those applications, 39 have been successful and have gone through their due diligence checks. I was hoping that I'd be able to share that list with you, the final list of projects, but unfortunately we're now in purdah for the local elections. So we'll have to publish that list for you in May once the elections are out of the way. So because we did have such a great response to that first round of funding, we do have phase 2 planned in the autumn, and that's still going ahead. But BEIS didn't want to make people wait until the autumn because of the enthusiasm for it. So we've got this extra round called the spring window, and this is £40 million to help manufacturers and data centres based in England, Wales and Northern Ireland to become more energy efficient and to decarbonise. As with round 1, there are 2 competitions that you can bid into. You can either apply to do a feasibility or engineering study to prepare for future deployment projects, or if you're ready, you can bid into the deployment competition and install energy efficiency technology straight away. So these 2 competitions are open right now and they don't close until the 14th of July. So you've got a 4.5-month window there to help you to think about what you could do, who you want to partner with if you want to partner with someone, and get your application in. In order to be the lead applicant, you have to have an eligible SIC code or standard industrial classification code. For the manufacturing industries, your SIC code needs to start with a 10, 11, 12, all the way up to 33. So if you fall into one of those codes, you are eligible to apply. And if you're a data center, it's 63110. If your site is doing manufacturing activities that are eligible and within those codes, but your parent company is listed under a different SIC code, then please get in touch with Innovate UK because you would still be able to apply. You just need to give evidence that you are a manufacturing site. So the 2 competitions in a little bit more detail. As I said, the feasibility and engineering study is all about building a pipeline of future deployment projects, either relating to energy efficiency technologies or decarbonisation technologies. So this isn't about having money to assess your site where all the heat and power demand is, looking at a range of technologies and then deciding what you want to do. The IETF doesn't fund that. You have to have already done that step. But what the feasibility study allows you to do is, having chosen something, it will allow you to look at whether it's going to be technically and economically viable to install that technology on your site and achieve the energy savings that you want. So, and then the engineering study, I should have said, that's kind of the next step on. So having decided you are going to deploy the technology, the engineering study allows you to do all that desktop work in preparation for the build. So your engineering design, technical specs, planning, health and safety, that type of thing. So these projects can be collaborative or single applicant. They need to be led by the business that operates the manufacturing site in England, Wales or Northern Ireland. And the lead applicant has to be the beneficiary of what you're doing. So for instance, if you were doing heat recovery, that's fine, that would be an eligible technology. But the energy that you've saved, that the heat recovered, has to be reused on that manufacturing site so that you're getting the benefit of the energy savings. You can't give it away to a nearby community. You can partner with other businesses, research and technology organisations, academics or public sector organisations. As long as they have an active role in your project, then you're welcome to partner with them. In terms of your study costs, so your grant plus your contribution together has to be at least £50,000 for the engineering studies that can last up to 2 years, and at least £30,000 for the feasibility studies that can last up to 12 months. Now looking at the deployment competition. So for this competition, this only relates to the energy efficiency theme. So you are deploying mature energy efficiency technologies that will improve the energy efficiency of your manufacturing process. In phase 2 in the autumn, we will also be including deployment of decarbonisation, but for this round, it's just energy efficiency. Again, it can be collaborative or single applicant. And again, it has to be led by the business that operates the manufacturing site in England, Wales or Northern Ireland, where the technology is going to be deployed. And again, that lead applicant has to be benefiting from what you're doing. And as this is mature energy efficiency technologies, there's no R&D in this. It's not innovation funding. This is capital investment to allow you to do something that's going to achieve energy savings straight away. So at the end of the project, the technology must be installed and operating or ready to switch on so that you get those energy savings straight away. For this competition, the grant alone that you apply for has to be at least £100,000. So we did take feedback from industry in the last round. The minimum limit in the last round was 250,000, which ruled out a lot of sites. So BEIS have taken that on board and have reduced that minimum limit down to 100,000 in the hope that that will allow more sites to apply. So this is a technology neutral competition, but we wanted to give you some ideas of the types of things we were expecting to see. So on the decarbonisation side, you could look at doing fuel switching, combine heat and power with fuel switching, or maybe carbon capture. On the energy efficiency side, it could be things like improved process controls, and as I said, heat recovery, pressure recovery, and then reuse of that energy, and maybe resource efficiency. So changing the recipe of the ingredients of what's making that product so that you don't need as much heat and power to make it. You could replace your heating and cooling equipment, so boilers, furnaces, chillers, that would be in scope. And for the energy efficiency theme, you can apply to do fuel switching, but you will be assessed on the energy savings that's a direct result of changing that fuel. So that might be a little bit tough to be able to show that it's making some real difference. Things that are definitely out of scope, so general repair and maintenance is out, plant closures. And something that came up a lot in the last round, we were asked quite a lot, new builds and expansions to existing sites are also out of scope. This programme is trying to target our existing carbon emissions, so we're not supporting new build and expansions. Transportation on your site, around your site, or between sites is out of scope. And whilst the fund will allow you to prepare and do any adaptation that's required to be able to run on a new fuel, it won't fund you to produce the new fuel or to generate the renewable energy. So solar farms, wind turbines, electrolyzers to generate your own hydrogen, that's out of scope for the IETF. And the last bullet point on that list I want to draw your attention to is combined heat and power without fuel switching is out of scope. So going from a gas boiler to a gas CHP unit will be out of scope because there's no fuel switch there. Eligible costs. So for the studies competition, that's nice and straightforward. It's a desktop study, so all of your costs are eligible. For the deployment projects, it depends what you're doing. So your eligible costs are the bit that relate to the energy efficiency improvement. So if what you're installing, say a heat recovery unit, its sole purpose is to save energy, then the whole cost of that is eligible. But if you're replacing a boiler or a furnace, its real purpose is to generate heat for your manufacturing process. So it's not energy efficiency. But if you wanted to swap from your current boiler to the state-of-the-art, most energy efficient boiler you could, it'll be the difference in cost between a like-for-like replacement and the cost of this super-duper energy efficient boiler that would be eligible. Finally, what support is on offer? So we had a briefing event on the 11th of March, and you can watch that again. I've provided the link to the recording. We went into the scope a lot more detail and how to apply. Innovate UK are supporting BEIS with this competition, and they've set up a dedicated IETF email. So you can get in touch with them if you want to check if you're eligible to apply or whether your project idea is eligible. And you can also check with me. We have set up a networking platform dedicated to this competition. So if you wanted to register at that link there, you can join the networking platform. There's about 125 people on there at the moment who are all interested in the IETF competitions. And lastly, to help manufacturers to understand some of the technologies that are out there that they could use and apply to the IETF fund with, we've set up a virtual technology marketplace. So it's a platform with lots of 5-minute videos from different technology providers to sort of showcase what is available. So if you're a manufacturer, you can contact me and I'll give you a link to register to get access to that platform. If you're a technology provider, again, get in touch with me and I'll give you another link so that you can register to submit your video. We are vetting the videos to make sure that they are eligible for the IETF, but please get in touch if you have any questions. That's it for me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jenny. Right, so we are now going to go on to Q&A, and then we'll follow with networking. So after the Q&A, we're going to split out into, if you want to stay on, at KTN, we know that diverse connections create positive change, and the conversations that you never plan to have with that person, the problem that you just can't solve, and so you just want to throw it out there. And with so many Zoom meetings and fixed agendas, we wanted to give you the opportunity to mix with each other, to introduce yourselves and talk about what digital technology innovation for manufacturing means to you. So that networking session will come after, but let's get on to Q&A. So if I stop sharing my screen. Oh, can I stop sharing? No. There we are. So questions. We have a few questions coming. What advice would you give a manufacturer? Oh, so in terms of questions, please, if you've got any questions, put them in the chat. I think Nilam's been gathering them up as they've been coming in, or you can raise your hand on the Zoom and we will find you and you can speak up. But first question then, so what advice would you give to a manufacturer that's in the early stages of their energy efficiency journey? And I see, Karthik, that you replied to that. Do you want to just say what you said and then expand a bit, please?
Yeah, I can do. Thanks, Nicole. The starting point really is, if you're a large organization, there's a good chance that there is a report somewhere in your organization called ESOS report, the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme, because from 2014 onwards, it's mandatory for organizations every 4 years to do an audit. So you will have some of that kind of material out there. I think with something like the IETF that's coming along, the first thing to do is dig out that information, look at it and see if there are any projects in there that have been identified that might be eligible for funding or for moving forward. The other thing, I think that if you're a smaller organization and you haven't done this kind of thing, energy efficiency is not rocket science. There's about 14 things you can do in terms of the systems you have, from the insulation systems through to lighting and hot water and heating. These are all kind of quite well-defined systems. There's lots of information out there. If you want a list from me, just get in touch or just through Nicole. But there are checklists of things that you can go through and say, have you looked at these as a starting point?
Great, thanks, Karthik. Conor, are you still on the line?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, Conor. So if you were to do your journey again, would you do anything different? Can you share any insights?
No, I don't think so. That sounds very defensive, but we are very early on our journey as an organization, because I mean, I'm with the organization now 4.5 years, and as you can see from our slide earlier, we've been building the data set for the last 2 years to try and understand. So we set out a sustainability strategy. Clearly, climate change and energy efficiency is a fundamental part of that strategy. We've spent 2 years gathering sufficient data so that we can understand where the challenges are and where the big challenges are. If you think about it, the most amount of carbon we use is we're electricity dependent, so we consume an awful lot of electricity. So is it worth investing in advanced technologies in the UK or in Europe, for example, when we know that the grid is going to green anyway? So is it the best bang for our buck? We still use and consume electricity that is coal-based in parts of the flyover states in North America. So I'd rather invest capital, or at least present to management and say, guys, the grid in Europe is greening. The grid in North America is 5-10 years behind Europe. So if we are going to invest in new technology for energy transformation, carbon transformation and energy efficiency, because I see both, and cost. And that's why we built the system to look at cost, consumption and carbon. We look at that and challenge each project or each opportunity. So I suppose come back right to your conversation or your question, would I do anything different? I don't think so. I'd like it to go quicker. I'd like to know where my energy efficiency is going to come, but at least I have very defensible data to build up a decision process for management, and that's what I wanted to achieve. So no, I wouldn't do it different at this stage.
Okay,
cool.
cool.
I'd add one thing very quickly to Conor's point there, just in terms of how we work together. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, please, yeah.
It's just when Conor and I first met, we actually had a conversation that was about almost a 5-year work program. And the starting point was really, how do we get quick wins for the organization? So in fact, I think the first 6 months or so we worked together, it was all about the quick wins generation, also building trust in the process of, if you do this, there are some returns that'll come through. And Conor had this vision of kind of an entire transformation program. And our objective, I think, was to use the quick wins to create the credibility, to then get buy-in to saying, okay, now let's create the resources and the work for this longer term program. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff initially where we had to kind of figure out, yes, there's long-term view, but our stakeholders want short-term wins. And if you can deliver wins early on, they're simple, easy, quick payback type things. It builds confidence in your process, and then you're allowed a bit more, I think, rope to go off and do other things.
Great. No, that's good advice, Karthik. Thanks. So we had a question from Amir. I'm just trying to find it on the Q&A. Amir, do you want to speak up? Amir Rad. Can you unmute yourself?
Oh, yeah. Hi. My question is to the light energy saving. I really wanted to know whether the software was applicable for the aircons as well, because a lot of the energies in our sort of buildings is a lot is the aircon, whether it's in the winter or in the summer. It's and I wanted to know whether the software that was presented was applicable to or was able to do the same thing for controlling the temperature in the room rather than or as well as the lighting.
Great. I don't know which one of you at Binary Forward would like to take that, but would one
I'm happy to take that one if
great.
That's okay.
Great, go Glenn.
So our current generation of software at the second doesn't integrate with air conditioning units. It was something we did look at originally, but we are in the process right now of developing the next generation, which will allow integration with third-party lighting control systems, not just our own. And as soon as we do that, we will have an open API in there that will allow us to integrate with other building control units and solutions. So things like automated blinds, air conditioning units, we'll be able to pull all that data in, process it and control if that option is available through the hardware.
Great, thanks Glenn. Yeah. I'm just looking at the chat as well, so thanks Karthik. Karthik's offered to anybody who wants to contact him directly, and he'll mail out an energy efficiency checklist. So next question, do the tools have a try version before you decide to buy? And I think that question's for Binary Forge.
So yes, well, what we've done previously with installations is that there's normally a 3-month trial period. So for that period, you obviously have to purchase some hardware, but we will provide the system that controls that lighting system for a 3-month period, so that you can actually see the savings, the flexibility of the solution, and obviously get to know and make sure that that's something you're interested in. At the end of that 3-month period, if you don't wish to move forward, the solution can be controlled by other front ends, or we can take the hardware out and you just control it through a light switch. Or alternatively, at that point, you can sign up with us, and there will be obviously a service charge going forwards for us to support that and provide the service.
Great. I did also note in Karthik, your presentation, that you actually guarantee savings. So I assume that the money that's saved pays for the some of the efficiency improvements or the reporting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the general kind of Ameresco model, the energy performance contracting model, is all about saying, okay, this is your current level of spend. If you put in these energy efficiency measures, then it creates a saving, and that saving can then finance projects and so on. So, you know, very roughly, for example, if you spend £1 million on energy, and we can take 30% out of that, then that 30% could create, you know, £1.5 million of investment into the organization. And the point about these are longer term projects. And typically you need to kind of enter into an energy performance contract that might last anything from 7 years to 25 years. Some of the largest projects with military, and they're on for 25 years and tens of millions. The difficulty with most, I think in the space right now, the difficulty most organizations have is, okay, there's lots of cool stuff happening, but how can you actually guarantee it's going to work? And manufacturers aren't necessarily experts in energy technologies, and they're having to make all these choices about what's going on. And so our kind of capability in terms of the energy space is come along and say, well, okay, we'll take that risk. We'll assess the technology. We'll, you know, work out how we, you know, there's a measurement verification process. All this stuff again is quite well known. If you're going to put lighting in place, you know, there's a certain way of checking before and after to make sure it's delivering what it's saying. If you're doing an HVAC operation, or, you know, you're putting variable speed drives in, all these technologies can have before and after kind of piece. And I think if you understand what the contribution is, then you're able to make an effective decision about what portfolio project can help you. And quite importantly, some things are just too expensive to do internally, and you should look at external options. And some things are no-brainers, you should do them internally. But you need that big list, and you need to work out what the kind of point is where you go from one, you know, way of doing it to another. So yeah, I think for anyone starting the journey right now, it can seem overwhelming, but the starting point is start with simple, cheap stuff that has quick payback, and then all the technologies you have that come down the track, you need to put in place a way of evaluating them. And to evaluate them, you need data and some kind of filtering process and some knowledge. You know, it's all the basics really, and that's why it's a journey, isn't it?
Yeah. No, and that's a really good way to kind of wrap up the session, that, you know, only with data can we make good management decisions, and it's getting that data and innovating solutions so we can make good decisions, so we can invest wisely in our energy efficiency solutions. You know, it's the live telling of the stories of the pain and the innovation and the reiteration that, you know, and bringing it to life, and not just being sold a solution that's going to answer everyone's dreams. You know, it's the hard reality of innovation is hard, but if you work through it, that you can succeed. And I think we've had some good evidence of that today. So thank you for your time, and happy Tuesday. Thank you, and maybe see you next time. Cheers. Thank you.